Okay. We all set to start again?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I think you may need to pull those exhibits back up, Mr. Olson.
Okay. All right, we are on complainants exhibit 27. Which is ERD 0276.
I believe this is one that's been previously admitted as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the title on this again?
It is May 30, 2018 text messages.
Thank you.
And these are text messages between you and Ms. Pfeiffer, is that right?
Correct.
Can you tell us concisely what was going on during this time?
This was after an administrative meeting, the one with Dr. Follin, after reviewing the clinical information. At this time, Angie wanted to know if she also needed to report some of the clinical reports to administration as well. I told her that I already had a meeting regarding that.
Okay, and can you tell us what was going on during this time? This is 2 Kelly OR. Who is that again?
This is one of the nurses in the OR, Kelly. Her maiden name was Peterson. She recently got married. That was Peterson at the time.
Okay.
So this was after Dr. Sivaдаsan's meeting with the OR team that I was not invited to. And this was Kelly discussing what was going on in that meeting, and that administration was there during that meeting. And her displeasure. And the fact that administration didn't stop her from also spreading those lies during that meeting.
Exhibit 28 is at ERD 0283. These are May 31, 2018 texts.
Now, has this been introduced before?
A moment, please. Yes, it has.
Okay.
What are you discussing in this series of text messages?
So this is, Dr. Sivadathan didn't want me in the OR, so Kelly was in the OR. A patient was supposed to be having open heart surgery or bypass surgery. And then Dr. Sivadathan did not show up to the OR and had the patient under anesthesia. And when she says ST elevations, that means the patient was actively having a heart attack and having heart damage during that time. And Dr. Fick is the anesthesiologist who was trying to get a hold of Dr. Sivadathan, and she did not show up to the OR for quite some time while the patient was actively having a heart attack on the table.
And this is another email or text message rather, between you and Kelly. And she's writing in the non-shaded text, right?
Correct.
Okay. And do you know anything about what she's saying here?
So
Yeah,
this was
page 0285.
what Angie was alluding to from this morning, where Dr. Sivasan was calling people at all times of the night, from anyone in the OR, basically to complain about everything and anything. And they had to get administration involved in the middle of the night to make her stop calling the OR staff. And they also, in this text, Kelly and some of the OR staff gave administration pictures of the text messaging and phone calls to administration at that time.
Okay, we're now at complainants exhibit 29, found at 0293. This was not, actually it was, I think, offered through either Mr. Galich or Ms. Ventura.
You said it started at Bates stamp 293?
Yes, it's
Okay.
entitled June 1, 2018 reposting of complainant's position. And it was introduced through
Okay,
Ms. Ventura.
thank you.
Have you seen this document before?
I have.
When did you first see it?
It was probably mid-June
Of,
of 2018.
And does this describe your position?
Well, this is a document I asked to be transferred on June 1st, so I can get away from Dr. Sivasan until they can improve the situation, cardiac surgery. And then a couple of weeks later, when I was looking at jobs, I found that they posted my job position the same day that I asked for a transfer, which made me upset.
Were you asking to be transferred away from Sivasan permanently? In terms of, describe for us what you specifically discussed about being transferred.
Well, I wanted to be transferred immediately because my working conditions were just horrendous. I kind of anticipated administration to take one of two situations. And one of them was temporarily restricting her privileges until she got help, because I did think she was unstable at that time, or that they were going to do that or just get rid of her because of these issues. On June 1st, when I asked for transfer, I did not think it would be a permanent transfer.
Did you do anything with this information when you discovered it?
No, I just saw it and I was upset.
We're now looking at complainants exhibit 30 at ERD 0295.
And has this been introduced?
Yes, through Mr. Gallup.
Okay.
This is an email on June 1, 2018 from you to Nicholas Galich. What was your purpose of sending this email?
This was the day that everything kind of exploded. I reached out to Nick because one of the new nurse practitioners called me and told me that Minnie was going around the ICU saying that I was fired and I was no longer employed. And
When you say
basically-
Minnie, is that Dr. Sivadesan?
I'm sorry, yes, Dr. Sivadesan was going around telling people I was fired. And then I got a message that morning from Dr. Sivadesan. So on a monthly basis, I would meet with the ICU nurses and go over a topic of their choice, usually some kind of pathophysiology of a cardiac or thoracic state. And she told me I was not allowed to give that meeting with the ICU nurses, the educational meeting with them. That whole week, so this was on a Friday, that whole week was just an escalating barrage from Dr. Sivadesan. And then finally on Friday, when all this happened, I finally reached out to Nick, and I was at my wit's end at that point.
Okay, and you asked to be transferred to another department. And you say, I've been talking to pulmonologists.
Yeah, or probably that week or the week before, I ran into the pulmonologist because things were getting pretty bad with working with Dr. Sivadesan, with her having meetings and spreading lies. So I was talking to them to see if they would be willing, or if kind of plant the seed to see if I can get transferred over to their department.
Okay, we're now on Exhibit 31.
Sorry, can you repeat stamp?
The date stamp is ERD 0298. That has not been previously offered.
Okay.
It's June 1, 2018 text. And is this where Dr. Sivadesan is telling you that you won't be doing the talks?
Correct. Yeah.
And she says, so just head to the office and Dr. Trimark will be meeting with you. What was that meeting about? Did it actually happen?
Yeah, that was a meeting with that last meeting with Dr. Trimark where we reviewed the STS data. I think Dr. Sivadesan thought I was getting that Dr. Trimark was going to talk about our relationship at that time, but it was about STS.
Exhibit 32 is ERD 0300. These are June 3, 2018 to June 4, 2018 text messages. Thirty-two has not been offered previously.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And this is you communicating with Ms. Aligi about her being out of the department.
Correct.
Exhibit 33 is ERD 0302. This is a series of June 4, 2018 text messages. This was previously admitted.
Okay.
Can you tell us what was going on during this time period when you were communicating with Ms. Aligi? No, this is with, just a second, please. This is with Ms. Pfeiffer.
Yeah, this was talking with Angie. Andrew was getting pulled into a meeting and she was concerned what it was about with administration. And then them trying to have more information regarding what I discussed to them previously.
All right, and just to establish again a timeline, this message has a June 4 date. And you say, not sure how that, you say, I haven't heard any, strike that, I haven't heard from anyone today. No updates from admin, not sure where I'm going, not sure what I'm going to do. You know, when you sent that,
Yeah, that was on that following Monday after I left that previous Friday to Bessa. Once I left this CT surgery department, there wasn't a lot of communication with administration. They didn't really say much to me. And that was communicating with Bessa regarding that I didn't hear anything yet.
okay, and this is exhibit 34 at ERD 0307.
Has this been introduced previously?
It has not.
Okay.
This is entitled June 4, 2018 emails regarding transfer.
Oh, can you just
Sure.
scroll back up for a quick second?
Yep.
Thank you.
And this is your email to Clemens, Ford, and Galich, is that right?
Correct.
And you said you've been doing some thinking over the weekend, and if it's possible, I would be able to do critical care position. Why did you make that suggestion?
I was comfortable with critical care. Critical care would kind of align with my skill sets with cardiac surgery. I felt comfortable treating critically patients in the ICU, and I think that would have aligned better with my skill set.
All right, and when you use the term transitioning twice in this email, what were you referring to there?
Like I said before, I thought that I would ultimately go back to cardiac surgery. That's why I thought the transitioning point would, for me to help out with another department while that took place.
Why did you want to go back to cardiac surgery rather than transferring permanently?
Because cardiac surgery was my passion. That's why I went to PA school. I worked my whole career in cardiac surgery, and that's what I was good at, and that's what I wanted to do. So that's why I anticipated happening.
Exhibit 35 is ERD 0309.
Okay, and is this a
That's-
new exhibit? I mean,
This
has this
was,
been introduced before?
this was admitted through Ms. Aligi.
Okay,
It's a June 5, 2018 text. And you're talking there about it being an emotional case, super hard. And especially since no one from admin has contacted me, I have no idea what's going on or what's the plan. What are you referring to first about the emotional part?
I think that was probably one of the most stressful times of my life. I was extraordinarily anxious at home. I didn't know what was going on with my job. I didn't know if Dr. Sivadathan was going to show up at my house. I didn't know what was going on. I was just very, very anxious about the whole situation.
Did anybody in admin tell you to do anything as a precautionary measure concerning Dr. Sivadathan communicating with you?
Yeah, so Susan Ventura, during that meeting when I asked to be transferred, told me to block Dr. Sivadathan from my phone. And then on that June 1st meeting with Dr. Trimark, when we were discussing that, I was concerned that she was mentally unstable. And I was actually concerned that she was going to be physically abusive to me because she has history of physical abuse in her past. I was concerned that she's going to show up to my house. He asked me if I knew if she had a gun or not. And I told him that I did not believe that she had a gun. But I was very, very concerned.
This is, looks like it's dated June 5, 2018 at 8:07 is when you indicated you still had not heard from admin.
Yeah, I sent an email that Monday and administration never reached out to me until I think I had to send text messages to Michelle Plemons to get a response from administration.
Now looking at complainants exhibit 36 at ERD 0311.
okay, and is this,
This has not been offered previously.
okay,
It's a June 6, 2018 text.
go ahead.
Right, so this is consistent with what you had testified to, that you weren't receiving communication from admin as of June 6, correct?
Correct.
All right. So we'll move on then to complainants exhibit 37 at ERD 0313. This was previously offered through Ms. Aligi. June 6 and June 7, 2018 text messages. And here you said that, so email Susan and have a meeting with her tomorrow at 3. I also texted Michelle today. Can you fill in any gaps on that?
Yeah,
What
so
emails were about or what was going on?
yeah, so I texted Bessa because I didn't know who else to reach out to with administration. So she asked if I reached out to Michelle Plemons because Brandy was out. So I did have her cell phone, so I ended up texting Michelle Plemons. And then Bess also suggested that I emailed Susan again or to her directly. So I sent her an email. And that's when I set I got in contact with Susan's administrative assistant and set up an appointment with Susan and Nick to discuss.
And did you actually have that meeting?
We did.
And how long was that meeting?
It wasn't that long. Like
Where was the meeting?
Susan Ventura's office.
And what was discussed in the meeting?
Basically what the next steps for where I was going to be transferred to.
Was there specific offer or offers made for particular jobs?
It was the same offers they gave on June 1st, which is working with Dr. Poulette in a family practice clinic, or they would terminate my contract and I can find my own job, or they can terminate my contract and they would put in a good word for me for one of their contracted services with the hospital.
And what did you say to them about the family practice offer?
I told them that family practice was not in my wheelhouse and not my skill set. And I didn't really feel comfortable doing family practice. I haven't looked in someone's ears in 8 years. I haven't done a PAP exam in 8 years. I didn't really feel that that was a good place for me to practice medicine.
And with respect to them offering to terminate your contract and giving referrals to contractors, what did you say about that, if anything?
I told them I would have to think about it because if they terminated my contract, I would prefer having a job set up before they terminated my contract. All of a sudden I would lose my health insurance, my income, and I was still hoping that I can go back to cardiac surgery at that point if they dealt with Dr. Sivadosin. Or they got a new surgeon.
Did they give any timeline or any indication that they would deal with Dr. Sivadosin in the future?
And they did not.
Okay, so on this was June 6th or June 7th?
I think it's June 7th, yeah.
They reiterated the offers they had made on June 1st. Did they offer anything in addition to that?
They did not.
Okay. Did they say anything about if your contract was terminated, whether they would enforce any of its terms against you?
They made that abundantly clear that I would have to have the restrictive covenants honored at that time. They said that on June 1st, they reiterated on June 7th. They were very, very adamant about that.
Okay, we're now at Exhibit 39.
This is new? Sorry.
This is a new exhibit. It is at ERD 0317. It is a June 8, 2018 text. You're having communication with Kelly, the OR nurse, is that right?
Correct.
And what was going on during this time?
I think Kelly was checking in on me to make sure everything was okay. And then she was discussing about Dr. Sivadosin's behavior and basically that they were hoping that Dr. Sivadosin would be dealt with administration and let go. And then discussing the previous nurse that worked with us, Kate, required a lawyer to get out of her contract because of Dr. Sivadosin.
Now looking at Exhibit 40 at ERD 0319. This was previously admitted. I thought, could be wrong. Was admitted through Ms. Aligi. This is a June 11, 2018 text. You say here, I've been thinking about you. I hope they tell me they are working on getting rid of her so I don't have to find a new job. Were you talking about Dr. Sivadosin here?
Correct.
And here you say no news from admin. I don't think they're going to contact me anymore, but who knows?
Yeah, they
So
kind
at
of,
this point, you still had not been contacted by admin about any new opportunity?
correct. They kind of didn't communicate very well during this whole process once I asked for a transfer. I had very limited contact with them.
And then it said Dr. Bloom and Hobble will are calling me tonight. Did you have that call?
I did. So Dr. Bloom and Dr. Habel are two of the pulmonologists. So
Okay.
they were checking in on me. Dr. Bloom was like my work dad.
Did they have any opportunity for you?
They did not. They did not have any openings.
Okay. Okay, and here you're referring to a July 9 date. What was the significance of that?
So I found out on July 9th that the Froedtert Milwaukee cardiac surgeons were credentialed, were just credentialed over at Froedtert South. So I was pretty excited about this. I thought this was my opportunity to get back to work in cardiac surgery at Froedtert South. So I was kind of waiting for administration to reach out to me to see if I would work with, I kind of assumed they were credentialing them to help do some cases and allow Dr. Sivadosin to get a break or get help or do whatever she needed to do. So I was pretty excited at this point to hopefully go back to work and work with those guys. But that never happened.
We're looking at Exhibit 41, which is ERD 0323. This is a new exhibit. It's a June 15, 2018 text. You're communicating here with OR nurse Kelly.
Correct.
And what was this about?
Kelly was asked by Kathy Turk and Chris Leslie to monitor Dr. Sivadosin's behavior and showing up to cases.
And what was this about? The daughter in the car having the cops come, et cetera?
Oh, yeah.
Stop service.
So Dr. Sivadosin was previously interviewed or investigated by Child Protective Services the year before. And then at that time, Dr. Sivadosin brought her daughter to the hospital again and left her 5-year-old daughter in her office and then drove to a different hospital and did 2 surgeries with her daughter unattended, even though Child Protective Services already investigated her for leaving her daughter in a car for over an hour at the hospital.
I have to object on the record. I mean, I've been, again, withholding my objections over and over again. I've been so patient, but I'm saying this is completely irrelevant, any claim that is before us right now, Judge.
I tend to agree the last bit of information does not seem relevant to the claims. Mr. Olson?
I don't have any further questions on that topic.
Okay.
Exhibit 42 is at ERD 0325.
I'm sorry, it was 325?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a new exhibit. These are June 18, 2018 email.
Go ahead.
Did you receive this email from Ms. Ventura on June 18?
I did.
All right. And read this to yourself and then tell us whether there's anything in here with which you disagree, as it's stated.
No, it was the same offers they offered June 1st. Except for the pulmonary clinic, as you can see that there was no position open.
All right. And then on June 14, you sent this email to Ms. Ventura. What was this for?
Now, I haven't heard from administration in quite some time, so I was checking in to see if they had any updates for me.
All right. And your PTO, what was that?
So I didn't think they were using my PTO, and they weren't using my PTO at this time. They started on a random date, but I previously placed PTO time in for those dates. So I just wanted to remind them that I was using my PTO on those 2 dates.
That's when you put in your formal request on their document. Is that right?
Correct. I previously did that before I left.
Okay. Okay. And then on June 19, you told Ventura none of those options seem appropriate. I've been a loyal employee. I've had the best interests. This is unfortunate. I'd like to continue my work in cardiac surgery. That was for the reasons you've already talked about, I assume.
Correct.
And did you get a response to that?
No, I don't believe so.
Now we're looking at complainants exhibit 43 at ERD 0329. This was previously admitted through Mr. Galich. These are June 19 and 2018 emails. And was this meeting actually set up?
It was.
And is this a meeting we've already talked about in your testimony?
No, this was just a meeting with Nick Galich. He wanted to discuss Dr. Savdas's claims that I was working outside my scope and being rogue and all that thing. So that was a meeting with him to discuss that.
Okay. And here he says, I need to investigate some of the things that you talked with Dr. Trimark about. Did you talk to him about those things in the same meeting?
Those things actually never came up.
Okay, he only talked to you about the allegations that Sivadas made against you?
Correct.
Okay. And Did he indicate whether you had explained the allegation to his satisfaction?
It seems so.
Now looking at Exhibit 44, this was previously admitted. It is at ERD 0334. It's a June 29, 2018 text.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the date?
June 29,
Okay, thank
2018. That one actually I'm not going to refer to. It's not necessary.
Okay.
Exhibit 45 is at ERD 0336. This is a July 17, 2018 text. This was previously admitted. That one we can skip as well. Exhibit 46 is at ERD 0338. It's a July 18, 2018 text. This was admitted through Ms. Aligi. And as of July 18, can you tell us what's happening at this time?
Yeah, so I had a meeting with Nick Galich and Susan Ventura. It had to be like early July. And that's when they had another offer where I can go to hematology oncology as a job offer. I told them that was not really my specialty, but I'd be happy to help out with hematology oncology at that point. And then Susan offered to have a meeting with myself, Nicole Caruso, and Susan Ventura on that morning of July 17th at the cancer clinic, so I can meet the hematology oncology staff and start working there. And then I show up and no one from administration or the hematology oncology clinic knew I was coming. Nicole Caruso was not there. Susan Ventura was not there. So I just sat in the lobby for a half hour waiting for anyone. And that's when Bessa texted me to say good luck for my first day at work with the hematology oncology clinic, and no one was there.
Would you have told anyone that that was going to be your first day working at that clinic if that were not the case?
No.
We've heard some testimony that one version was that you were confused about it. The other was that you didn't show up at a designated date and time. Was there any confusion on your part as to the specificity of date, time, and place of you starting in oncology?
No, it was very specific. After I told them that I would be willing to help out at hematology oncology, Susan gave me a place, a time, and who I was meeting at that time. And that's when I showed up.
And then did you have any follow-up communication with anyone on that topic?
So after I went home, Susan Ventura called me. It had to be like later that afternoon and apologized for not showing up. And then we talked about opportunities, and that was it. And then she never called back to reschedule an appointment with hematology oncology or anything. And that was when the last time I pretty much heard from administration.
So in apologizing for not showing up, did she acknowledge that she was supposed to be there at that date and time?
She just kind of glossed over and said, I'm sorry that this happened, kind of thing. I think she just forgot.
And Exhibit 47 is ERD 0342. This is July 20, 2018 text.
Sorry,
This
can
is
you
all-
back up to the Bates stamp number?
Yes. And this was admitted through Ms. Pfeiffer.
Okay.
And can you fill in what this was about?
So like Angie said, evidently Minnie was saying that Susan and I just talked on the phone and that I was crazy and that Susan hung up on me, which didn't happen.
Exhibit 48 is the termination letter. This is at ERD 0345. This was previously admitted. So let's take a close look at this. First of all, the date is July 31, 2018. You know when you actually received it?
I believe on August 1st, certified mail.
And the subject is termination of employment. When was the first time that you were told your employment was terminated?
This letter.
And it says effective July 27, 2018. Does that date have any significance for you?
None.
And they're reiterating here that you've got a restrictive covenant, a non-compete agreement, that you can't
Right.
work within a 20-mile radius, correct?
Correct.
And you can't solicit. And that they can get their costs if they have to enforce the agreement against you. And then she says, I'm truly sorry that we were not able to offer you an opportunity that you would find acceptable. Was the oncology department offer acceptable to you?
I was willing to work in hematology oncology.
Uh-huh. Okay, we're now looking at Exhibit 49 at 0348. These are August 2 to August 7, 2018 emails, or text messages rather.
Okay, and has this been introduced before?
Has not.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
And that one we don't need to cover, so I'm skipping it. Moving on to Exhibit 50. At ERD 0350. It's an August 10, 2018 text. And who is Melissa Hartnell?
She works in the HR department. She's responsible for credentialing.
Okay, and you say you need a case log file filled. What is that?
So at this point, I was applying to I continue to apply for new positions. So typically, if you have a surgical position, you need a list of all of the procedures you've performed within a certain time frame. Usually it's about 2 years. previously, so they know that you are active in the OR and competent.
Now, you'd already been informed that as of July 27, your employment had been terminated. At this point, do you know whether the employees that you worked with knew about your termination?
Can you repeat that one?
Sure. At this point in August, did the employees you worked with know about your termination?
No,
How do you know that?
my St. Luke's employee? Or,
The people that you worked with at
oh, Froedtert South?
Froedtert South, did they know that you were terminated?
I think the only person I told was Betha.
Okay. And so when you had further communication with Froedtert South, was anyone there surprised that you were terminated or not knowing that you were actually terminated?
Yeah, so when I reached out for my procedural log from Melissa Hartnell, this was multiple weeks after Froedtert South terminated me. She didn't know I was terminated and she works in HR. She sent back like an email saying, does administration know that you left? And I said, I was shocked by her response since they're the ones who let me go. And she works in HR, so she should know my employment status.
Judge, would you mind if I just asked for a clarification of who this person is in HR?
Melissa Hartnell, like what her position is, or,
I guess the name and the position, yes.
okay. Do you have that information?
So Melissa Hartnell, I know she works in the credentialing department at Froedtert South under the direction of Nick Galich.
Okay, if we take a look then at Complainants Exhibit 52, which is at ERD 0355, it's a August 16, 2018 text. Has not been offered. I'll keep that on the screen
Okay,
a moment.
thank you. Thank you.
And is this the email you just mentioned a moment ago from Ms. Hartnell?
Yeah,
Okay,
she didn't know what my official last day was either.
okay, and then at ERD 0359, we're looking at Complainants Exhibit 54. Not previously offered. These are Dr. Savitazen's text messages. And can you describe what's going on here?
I think this is actually a text message from 2017
Uh-huh.
with her kind of apologizing for her behavior at times and kind of making up for her behaviors.
I believe this may have been in another exhibit. This looks familiar.
There's one similar to it.
Okay.
This one is different though.
Okay.
It doesn't have a date on it, so we put it at the end, but you believe this is from 2017?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, and now we're at Complainant's Exhibit 55, which was previously offered and admitted through Ms. Aligi. It is at ERD 0361. And were you communicating with Ms. Aligi while you were in the waiting room at the oncology department
I was.
on your first day? Okay.
Yeah, I received her text while I was waiting for someone to show up when she said, good luck.
And then she sent a person, was it Courtney? And what was Courtney's job?
It was Nicole Caruso.
Oh, Caruso.
She was the director of hematology oncology, the cancer clinic, who I was supposed to meet with that morning that Susan was supposed to set up.
Okay. And were you aware that she was going to provide that reference for you?
Not at all.
Did you get any follow-up from anybody at the oncology cancer clinic?
I got no follow-up from hematology oncology.
Okay, we're looking at Exhibit 57. Starts at 0366. Okay, that we've already covered. So we're going to all right, so getting into documents about mitigation and damages, which we're bifurcating. Perhaps I could take a minute to go through the rest of these exhibits and then
Sure.
streamline
Why
it.
don't we take, what do we need, 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Let me understand, Judge, if you wouldn't mind. Are we going to bifurcate the damages portion of the hearing?
Yes, if there's a,
I'm requesting
depending on
that.
depending on the finding, and I think that's already been discussed in pre-hearing orders as well as at the hearing. But depending on the finding at this hearing, if there's a need for a damages hearing, yes, it will be bifurcated. We are not discussing damages at this hearing.
Okay, so what is Attorney Olson's proposition at this point, just now?
He's asked if he could have a few minutes to see which exhibits he still needs to go over and introduce into the record.
Absolutely. Okay, I understand now. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Olson, how much time will you need?
Just 10 minutes to go through these
Okay.
last 138 pages.
Okay, so it's about 3:40, okay? All
Okay, very good.
right, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, we're recording again.
Okay. Ms. Sherry, when you reported your clinical concerns to the administration, did you have an understanding that those concerns would be elevated up to the CEO and the board of the company?
I've been restraining all afternoon from objecting on leading the witness, and I don't even know exactly what you mean by reporting
Okay.
to the people that you're reporting to. So there's multiple objections on my
Okay.
end.
Yeah, why don't we ask the questions in a less leading fashion?
Okay, well, this is the first objection I've heard on leading, so I'm not sure what the issue is, but with respect
I've been
to
very,
the
very
meeting,
lenient.
okay, well, it's greatly appreciated.
You're
So
welcome.
when you brought your clinical concerns to administration, did they tell you what they were going to do with those concerns?
Objection. When she brought clinical objections is vague and administration is vague and time period is vague.
Okay. Perhaps time period. Why don't you rephrase?
Okay. You've already testified that you had several conversations with management and the administrators about Dr. Savitasen's mistreatment of employees and her problem in taking care of her patients. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So in any of your conversations with the administration, did they indicate whether they were going to take your concerns to someone else within the organization?
Yes.
To whom
So-
in the organization did they say they were going to take their concerns?
Can I please object to the fact that you're using the word, who did they say they were going to take their objections to? It's vague and ambiguous.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess just use the same term as from the previous question.
All right. Who in administration told you that your concerns were going to be taken to someone else in the organization?
So Brandy's concerns went up to Susan Ventura and Nick Galich, and then they brought it to Dr. Fullen, who is the chief of cardiovascular services, who was looking at the clinical decisions. And then when I discussed it with Dr. Trimark discussed that he was bringing it up to Rick Schmidt and the board after that.
All right. And Rick Schmidt's position is what?
He is the CEO and president of Froedtert South.
All right. And do you know whether it was brought up to Schmidt and the board?
At the time, no, there was no report back.
Did anyone ask you to speak at any of the meetings or communications with the CEO or the board?
No,
Did anyone ever notify you that your complaints against Dr. Savitasen were closed or resolved?
no.
Up until the moment that you got the termination letter on July 31, what was your understanding was going on in terms of your complaints that you brought about Dr. Savitasen's failure to care for her patients?
Objection, leading the witness, we're assuming that there was a failure to accurately take care of patients in that question.
Well, I'm
Do you
not
want-
only assuming it, that's the evidence. I'm basing it on what the testimony was.
If you just want to, if you want to rephrase that one word, otherwise,
Okay. Is it accurate to state that you brought complaints several times to the administration that Dr. Savitasen was not providing proper care for her patients?
Correct.
Okay, and up until the moment that you got the termination letter on July 31, what did you believe administration was doing with respect to those complaints that you brought forward?
I figured they were investigating those complaints and dealing with Dr. Sivadosin.
All right, that completes my examination.
Okay, Cross.
Okay, so at this point, Judge, since we're at 10 to 4 in the afternoon, I would like to do the cross-examination tomorrow, if we could. Tomorrow morning, I'm willing to start at whatever time you'd like to.
Okay.
Um,
How long do you anticipate your cross to be?
Not more than an hour or two,
An hour or two.
to be realistic, an hour or two.
Okay, and how many more witnesses are there?
I don't have any other witnesses.
Okay, so then that would be the end of the case. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, any objection to starting tomorrow with Ms. Sherry's testimony? Or I'm sorry, cross-examination?
That's fine.
Okay. All right, obviously my biggest concern is I want to complete this tomorrow. So assuming that there's, if with one witness, we should hopefully be able to do that, especially if you're saying that you think that your cross will be, 1 hour 2 at the most. Obviously, Mr. Olson will have,
Right.
An opportunity for redirect. We can start at 9. I did get an appointment at 1 o'clock tomorrow, so if we could kind of work around that.
Sure.
So I think hopefully, I would hope if we start at 9, we can finish by 1. Fingers crossed.
I believe
But if
that.
not, I
we
should
can.
be back. I should be back by 2:30 and we can complete the hearing then. I would just obviously prefer that if we start at 9, we could hopefully get done by 4. Now we still have to go through some of the remaining exhibits. Do you want to do that now, or should we do that at the end of the day, at the end of the hearing tomorrow?
I'd like to do it now because I have a couple of questions regarding how I'm going to get all of those organized for myself, which is one issue that I'm having, but you tell me what else you would like to deal with before we get to the exhibits. Anything else that we should be
No,
working
I'm just,
around?
no, I mean, we can certainly go through the exhibits now. And I'm just looking, I'm trying to determine here where we left off. All of the ones from yesterday were ended up being received, and I'm just trying to figure out where we started today, because unfortunately it's the same. It looks like
Here's one of my concerns,
20.
Judge. I'm sorry. I'm wondering if there's any chance I could get a list of all the witnesses that were, or I'm sorry, all the exhibits that were introduced today, so that I can have a copy of them, because it wasn't, as you know, when we work through a virtual system like we're doing, it's been hard for me to have a list of the exhibits that we went through today. I've been keeping track of it, obviously, by writing them down.
I have a list I've been filling out, and I can enter that. It's a list I can enter things into the file. I can have that to you by tomorrow morning. If you think that will make things easier in going through these exhibits, we can do that. All right.
It would be, because that would help me in my cross-examination, because there have been a significant number of exhibits introduced, and I am having a hard time keeping track of them based on whether it was the fact that we're calling them plaintiffs exhibits, complainants exhibits, or the number of the bait stamped, because we, as we know, you didn't want us to bait stamp, and I understand that you already doesn't want to do that, so I'm now kind of at a loss with.
Okay. Well, everything
how
is
to-
bait stamped. Everything has been bait stamped, and we've been referring to those
Right.
bait stamp numbers. However, like I said, we document all the exhibits with their who introduced them and the number we've given the exhibit as well as the bait stamp. I will make, like I said, I have just a written copy. I will enter this all in, and I can have that out to you by tomorrow morning, and we'll just go through the remainder of the exhibits at that point that have been introduced. All right?
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else?
No, nothing else that I have.
Okay. Anything from the complainant?
So we won't be going through any of the exhibits now for admission.
No, I will be taking my written list, putting
Okay.
it into I'll be, creating the list in the record, just typing it in, and I'll send it out to both parties tomorrow. So we're all on the same page. Obviously, the only ones that we have to go over are the ones that were introduced today. Everything else has already been dealt with. So, but the list will include all exhibits that have been received so far, as well as the ones that have been introduced. All right.
Very
Okay.
well, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. See you tomorrow at
See you.
9.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank you.
very good.
night.